Did y'all know the language of the King James Version was already considered out of date and obsolete in the very year it was published? Hey everybody, I'm Dan McClellan. I'm a scholar of the Bible and religion. King James Version was published in 1611, but it was really just a conservative revision of the Bishop's Bible, which was first published in 1568. And it was a conservative revision of translations that came before: the Geneva Bible, the Great Bible, the Matthew's Bible, the Coverdale Bible, all the way back to Tyndale's New Testament and the portions of the Old Testament that he translated. Scholars have estimated that about 84% of the King James Version's New Testament is word for word Tyndale's translation, and about 75% of the King James Version's Old Testament is word for word Tyndale's translation of those books of the Old Testament that he translated. So the language of the King James Version in 1611 really comes overwhelmingly from 75 to 85 years earlier, and it was criticized for using out-of-date language. In 1833, Daniel Webster published his own update of the King James Version because he said it was so out of date that it was difficult for people to understand. It's now been over 400 years since the King James Version was published. The language is wildly out of date, often difficult, sometimes even impossible to understand for folks who cannot consult the source languages. It's also based on an idiosyncratic set of hermeneutic lenses, an overly literal, out-of-date and obsolete translation philosophy, as well as inferior manuscript traditions. Today there are much better translations that are much easier to understand, that are based on better manuscript traditions, and that come closer to what the authors were trying to say. The only reason people still enjoy and defend the King James Version today is because it is a literary artifact that sits at the foundation of a lot of English-speaking Protestantism. But there's absolutely nothing about the King James Version that helps anyone today get any closer to what the authors of the biblical text were trying to say. There are a lot of other translations that do a much better job of that. And the fit for this video has been the goddess Aurora Monroe, also known as Storm, and the location has been Glenwood Springs, Colorado.